Good evening and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Board of Education. The meeting is called to order at 4:02 p.m. in open session. Tonight, we do not have requests addressing closed session agenda items. At this time, roll call, please.
Ms. Armstrong? Dr. El Hassan?
Aye.
Mr. Critchfield?
Aye.
Mrs. Garza?
Aye.
And I, Ms. Stewart, am present.
At this time, the board will recess to closed session. Open session will resume at approximately 6 p.m. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. Tonight's meeting of the Board of Education was called to order at 4:02 p.m. in open session, and the board then adjourned to closed session at 4:02. We will now reconvene the meeting in open session at 6 p.m. Vice President Brad Critchfield will update us on closed session topics.
The topics discussed in closed session were pending litigation, anticipated litigation, and superintendent's evaluation and performance. There was no action taken by the board.
Replacement pages. We do not have any replacement pages tonight. We will move on to public comments, agenda, non-agenda items. Tonight, we do have requests addressing agenda, non-agenda items. While meetings of the governing board are not public meetings, they are open to the public. Individual speakers will be allowed 3 minutes to address the board on each agenda, non-agenda item, and the board will limit the total time for public input on each item to 21 minutes per board bylaw 9322.2. If I can please have Mr. James Brockway come on in, up to the podium. Thank you.
Big timer in front of me. Good evening, board, various BAUSD members, and various guests. I want to thank you for letting me speak tonight. I'm bringing up concerns tonight about just placement and the education at my site. The sheer numbers are impacting some of the education that's happening at my site. I find myself in an awkward position to have to say no to certain things because I'm usually, anyone that's worked with me can tell you I'm a very helpful person. I want to help out the best I can because I think we're all here for the same purpose, to help our students. At my school, in both 5th and 6th grade classes, we are completely full. This includes a 5th and 6th grade combo. We started out higher in numbers. We reorganized and brought it down to the maximum. So the maximum, from my understanding, is supposed to be about 32 students, unless the district is averaging above that number across the district. Then we can bump it up to 34, which is what I'm at right now, and all 5th and 6th grade classes are at that number at my site. This is good because we all want to have as many students as we can at the school. We want to retain our students, but it does impact other various aspects of education. I've been directed by my site administrator to mainstream SDC kids in my class, which I normally can say yes to, which is fine. But the sheer space in my class, the numbers are prohibitive of any kind of small group instruction, anything I need to do to the side. It's hard enough just to get around my classroom right now. And so now I'm asked to have a 35th student. So I don't know what the exact number is. Where is the number at that I can have in my classroom? Because I thought it was 32, 34 is possible, but now I have even more than that. I usually have no problem because my own son started out in SDC, got mainstream, was able to move into RSP, so it was a successful program for me and my family. All of us, including my site administrator, are kind of put in between a rock and a hard place because we're not sure what to do. Am I going to break contract language, or am I going to not be in compliance with an IEP? So where's the line? I'm kind of caught in a dilemma here, and that's why I'm bringing it to the board's attention. Contract language also states that physical dimensions should be taken into account with the classrooms, and 35 6th grade students in a classroom tends to squeeze a little bit. I am also, according to contract language, am to be provided training for how to handle these students. Also release time, none of these have been offered to me. I bring these concerns not to be a thorn in anybody's side, just to bring it to the attention of everyone involved so we can get on the same page and do what's best for our kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brockway. Our next speaker is Elizabeth Rios. Would you please approach the podium?
I'm very nervous. Okay, so good evening, members of the board, superintendent, and everybody here. My presentation tonight is as a parent, not as an employee of the district. I have 2 children in the dual program, one in 4th grade and one in 5th grade. I come before you in regards to the dual transition from Washington to ILC that just took place. It was devastating for my children and myself, say the least, as we were not given a voice in this matter. Dr. Drati did not present the transition as a choice, but something that would take in effect the following week. Dr. Drati has brought to our attention that the district has a loss of 400 students and a loss of revenue. I understand that Dr. Drati had has a great vision for the students with the transition, but there was no plan behind it. If there was, it wasn't thought out, and the execution was terrible. There were lots of questions and no answers. 1, we were never given a chance to address our concerns prior to the transition. 2, if there should be adjustments made because of the loss of revenue, why should my children be the first to be affected? And why not start somewhere else, like administration? Dr. Drati mentioned that students and staff are ready for such change, but ILC is not equipped with supplies for my children like home Chromebooks and lack of support in classrooms or counselors. Dr. Drati assured us that our kids will receive a grace period of 1 year to wear Washington uniform. And my child has experienced firsthand of the effects of the unplanned transition. She was singled out in class that she would not be receiving a gotcha stamp because she was wearing the wrong shoes or not in uniform. Due to this, my child is experiencing anxiety for not wearing school uniform. I continue to remind her that we are in transition and they are allowed to wear Washington uniform. Also, there's a separation within the school. My kids are known as the Washington students. This is heard within classrooms, including teachers and staff. The welcoming for my children have been bittersweet experience. What I would like to see is a transparency from our superintendent and any future changes within the dual program to make it clear my children are not a number. They are my children, and for that they have a voice. I would like to see a support staff in the classrooms as the kids are currently struggling to get help from their teachers. In addition, I would like to see an additional counselor to help my children and other students that are having a hard time adjusting because they're not being welcome, and for their educational purposes, and a vice principal. And then I leave the board with this, because we just in remembrance of 9/11. I quote former President George Bush after the attacks: "Although I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil." And that's what I give to my kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rios. Dr. Drati, would you please mind looking into both of those issues? Thank you. Next, we have Deborah Frenes Baez.
Thank you. Same topic. In order to have the quality dual immersion program that not only produces good test scores, but also good humans who will be mentally happy and productive in both languages, ILC needs another full-time counselor, a full-time caseworker, and an assistant principal. For our teachers to be happy, that typically means less students, but because I understand there is low enrollment across districts, thus less funding coming in, our teachers need to take on more students. So I'm willing to be okay with the larger class sizes, even though it may be makes sense fiscally, it does not make the most human sense or academic sense. My understanding based on district profile is that ILC is now the elementary school in the district with the most students, and now the only campus with a dual program. This also points to the need for more support. Based on our experiences thus far at ILC, we see the need for more support. The caseworker needs more hours. Even during her part-time hours, it has been near impossible to get a hold of her. That means we do not have uniforms as promised by Dr. Drati. Our principal needs support if we want to keep her. have her not burn out and not have the high turnover that ILC has had with principals. Our students have not received their laptops yet because our principal has been too busy, which I understand. Yet this is a case in point that the principal needs help. ILC needs support from an AP if you want to see the leadership needed and deserved to have a program that not only survives but thrives. We need a second counselor with this many students. My son has not seen the counselor once. By now, there should have been contact at least once in each of the classes that had students come from Washington. There should have already been at least one second step curriculum session implemented to guide those students and the students in those classrooms and teachers on how to welcome students, integrate, make a part of the culture, community, and why. I'm sure you're aware there are studies that show that community and feeling a part of something is key to mental wellness and academic wellness. I will not harp on the fact that my child was not welcomed by the teacher, nor was outside. He didn't see her till she was inside the class and didn't even ask his name or say hello personally. She simply instructed the entire class to say welcome. I will not harp on the fact that the teacher at PE and his teacher referred to them for the first week as the new students. I'm going to skip, but my son also the first 2 weeks has only felt reprimanded instead of welcomed or shown the new norms, routines, etc. Kids learn primarily by what is modeled. We are giving the teachers and admin the benefit of the doubt because this was probably sprung on them as it was on us. Little choice, little notice, little obvious planning. For a teacher to go from 22 to 31 or 32 or 35 students without a choice does not make a happy teacher. But you did say more than once, Dr. Dradi, that we would have excellent support in teachers at ILC. We're waiting on that. Questions: when will the positions for AP, second counselor, and ideally also full-time caseworker happen? When will they be posted? I looked yesterday, they're not posted. Are they already hired? Are you flying it internally? Where are the uniforms promised? This has been entirely new wardrobe for us. And to the board, no, we were not given proper notice or actual choices for any consistency. It was moved to ILC or dual or stay at Washington in English.
Thank you, Ms. Baez. Dr. Dradi, the same, please. Next, we have Martha Corona Archuleta.
Hello, school board. My name is Marta Corona Archuleta. I have 2 daughters in the dual program that were affected by the recent relocating of schools. My daughter has been at Washington since preschool, and now my oldest is in 4th grade. When this program was offered at Washington, the principal at the time introduced it as a long-term program with the end goal of our children becoming dual speaking, reading, and writing young adults. As a Mexican-American, dual immersion was always a goal for our family because it was important that our children spoke and understood the language. I am here today because I am very frustrated with the way the relocation was handled and managed by the superintendent. The initial meeting was given with less than 48-hour notice. The meeting started as an option, and at the end of the meeting, it became the limited option of moving our children to ILC or stay at Washington in the regular classes. During the second meeting with the superintendent, it was very obvious most of the parents were not okay with this big move and of all the grades to a new school, seeing that it interrupted a month into the school year. Most parents were okay with finishing the school year at their home school and making the change the following year. There were many questions the parents had that the superintendent did not have answers to. Our families have had a roller coaster of emotions since hearing the news of this move. As we try to teach our kids that change is inevitable and part of life is adapting. Adaptation is a life skill, and learning to find solutions is what we try to teach our kids. We also teach our kids to ask questions, never be afraid to speak up, and speak your mind. Someone once told me that an unprepared plan is destined for failure. This was a hasty and huge move, and the district needed more preparation. The biggest frustration as an involved parent is that talking to other parents at ILC, parents let me know that her son knew he was getting 10 or more classmates the week prior to Washington parents being informed of the relocation. Also, that there was letters sent out to ILC and Washington parents explaining that there might be relocation, and yet none of the parents at Washington got this letter, but ILC parents did. It gives a perception that ILC parents are more valuable to this district than Washington parents. This is unacceptable and should not happen again. The reality is that maybe you do have more parent involvement at ILC than Washington, but this is not the case with dual immersion parents. The dual parents are very involved in our children's education because we are invested in the program. If this district lost more than 400 students to other districts, then this is an indicator that something is wrong within our district. The sudden move left a bad taste for our family, and I felt like I was strong-armed to make a move to either stay in dual program or go back to standard classes that were gonna be combo classes. Now the question is, how do we move forward? First, I asked the board to reconsider the uniform policy for this year at ILC by blending both school uniform policies together. Let our kids use the clothes that the parents already purchased for this year. Our kids are newbies and they need to adapt and blend in.
Ms.
Second,
Chuleta, I'm so sorry. Your time is up. Board, would you mind if we give her some more time to finish up her comments? Or, yes, is it possible to hand your statement in so that way we can read it ourselves?
sounds good. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Dr. Draddy, would you mind please updating the board on what's going on at ILC by Friday, September 29th, please, in the Friday memo? Hopefully we can do an analysis of needs on that campus now that we have extra students. Thank you. Next person is Elizabeth Hanoano. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that.
It's Elizabeth Hanohana.
Hanohan.
So I didn't have very much prepared. I came to support my fellow classmates' parents because we have a text thread of parents that feel exactly the same, but either had to work or had other things that their kids are doing and couldn't be here. So I feel like we're speaking on the dual, at least, dual fourth grade class that got moved to ILC. I made the original decision to keep my son at Washington, and actually I planned on taking him out because he had been struggling so much. And I'd had conversations with the teachers and the principal, and we decided, let's keep him in. He's struggling with other things. He has a new baby sister, lots of changes, whatever. Then when I decided this change would happen, I wasn't answered for a week, and because I feel like people knew it was happening. And then we were given the choice to stay at Washington or go to ILC. I chose to keep him there because I thought he needs to be in English because he's not getting the help he needs in Spanish. We all know the pandemic hurt our kids already. On top of that, now this fourth grade class has already been through 2 years of no school because of the pandemic. I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional. But our kids are going through a lot. They've been moved. Their teacher that they spent a month with, that they loved, who was nurturing. These kids have had nurturing teachers throughout their dual experience, and then to be placed at ILC with a teacher that's a little bit more stricter, we understand, which is fine. I'm pushing my son, but he came home with a packet of work, and I'm wondering, where is the support? Besides the uniforms on top of that, we need support. They need help, extra tutoring. After the pandemic, that should have happened. You guys already know there was an issue. You guys moved kids over. What are you guys gonna do to help us? You in your like board of your president thing, I encourage everybody to read it. You said you want to be transparent and to help everybody come together, bring the board together, bring the school district together, and help our kids. It's about the kids. It isn't about us or everybody up here or the money. It's about getting our kids to the level they need to be at. And our kids are in dual. My son is going to be in dual now till he's in 6th grade. I can't move him out. He has an IEP. I was successful in moving my daughter out to a better place where she can, catch up and things like that. And I know that could maybe hurt my permit. I hope, God forbid. But, that's the chance I'm taking to support my son and his classmates who are struggling right now. And it's been a week. I know we got to give it time. But where is the counselor to help them specifically? Not if the kids ask for help. They need to be gathered as a group with other ILC kids and not be called the Washington kids, my son, the playground is shut down. He can't play the games he used to play at Washington. Where is the support to make sure that the experiences they were having at Washington, like socially, is here there? They need social interaction. They need to be, maybe the teacher needs to take time to sit down with the ILC kids and the Washington kids and make them eagles. Maybe encourage the eagle mascot, build that up or something. Dr. Draddy, you're new here, and I'm sure a lot of pressure's on you, man, but I hope you do everything you can for the kids, not for your colleagues or whatever. Do what's best for the kids, please. You guys are parents. You're a parent. I read your stuff. You're parents. You have 5 kids or something that you had in the school district. I'm a product of BUSD. I don't know if I feel good about that, right now, Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hanon. Dr. Reagan, I will pass these cards on to you. Thank you very much. We will now move to amendments, amendments to the agenda. Do we have any amendments to this evening's agenda? Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the, there are no amendments, so let's go on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight, Classified Employee of the Year, Ms. Gutierrez, will lead the Pledge of Allegiance.
Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gutierrez. Presentations from students and community. CSCA does not have a report tonight. It's time for BTA and PTA communications. Can we have BTA President Ms. Carrie McDaniel come to the podium, please?
Hi, good evening, President Garza, Board, Dr. Girardi, and Cabinet. I'm here tonight to give you an update on BTA and what we have been doing since school started. Most of our sites are started back to school in August. Teachers were excited to get back into their classrooms and get them ready for their students. Treasurer Valissa Roberts and I joined me in making a site visit to Somerset and provide lunch from Supermex. I worked with Mr. Higgins, and he suggested inviting Bay and the adult transition teachers over as well, so we did. Oh, I have the clicker. Thanks. Ooh. All right. Okay. So BTS submitted 3 grants to CTA to continue our work in building connections with our members. The membership engagement grant helps us fund some of the fun things we plan for members, like our mixer at Lucille's tomorrow night. The site visit grant helps us with release time to send exec board members to all the sites to listen to concerns and also provide information on things like insurance, disability, and life insurance. We usually invite reps from California Casualty and the Standard to answer questions about coverage. I've been busy working with cabinet members to try and solve problems that come to me via email or site reps. Dr. Avila and I have worked to get the standing committee ready for the November 1st meeting, and I met with them earlier today to discuss some email concerns. I hope we continue to solve problems together. Mrs. Holguin and I met with, Mrs. Holguin met with BTA's insurance committee to review the district's contributions. We look forward to continuing discussion on the district's contribution to insurance as the rates for 2024 in most of the plans increase significantly. I also worked with Ms. Carter to secure subs for a BTA executive board retreat in February. I appreciate her working with us and the district's commitment to supporting BTA. Dr. Robinson and I held meetings earlier this month with our SPED teachers. One day we invited elementary teachers, and the next was secondary. We have so much work to do with regards to contract language to help make working conditions more clear, as we realize in those meetings that there are many issues with special ed. I sent out a check-in survey to our members just to check in and see how things are going at the beginning of the year. I shared the results sorted by site with Dr. Girardi and our site reps. Finally, in my meetings with Dr. Girardi, we have been talking about alliance meetings and the importance of solving problems together. I look forward to getting those meetings going and listening to all sides in a commitment to work together to help the district move forward. Thank you for this time tonight, and I look forward to seeing you all at the STEAM Building reception next week.
Thank you, Ms. McDaniel. Next is PTA Communications. Welcome, Ms. Morgan.
Good evening. Okay, so this slide, for those that have seen it before, is obviously familiar, but this is who we are. We are Bellflower Council PTA, the Parent Teachers Association, and our theme is to serve, outreach, advocate, and renew. Those are the 12 units on your right. Which one do I press? Oh, okay. So we're all volunteers, and throughout the year, we organize various events, fundraisers to be able to host those events, and programs that all aim to promote school spirit, encourage parent involvement, and provide additional resources for our students. We strongly believe that by working together, we will create a strong partnership between home and school, ensuring that our students receive the best support and opportunities. So I know we're only a month in, but our units have been very busy. One of our annual events coming up is Red Ribbon Week. That's October 23rd through 27th, and it's the annual drug use prevention campaign, where our PTA units have activities for the students, dress-up days, assemblies, and community service projects that week, all to raise awareness and encourage our kiddos to live drug-free. Under this year's theme, Be Kind to Your Mind, Live Drug-Free. Look for an invitation, probably an evite from us real soon. So as council PTA, we are supporting all of our units with training resources, meetings with their boards, as well as one-on-ones where needed. I've had some conversations with some of the principals, school board members, and Dr. Dradi, and I'm honestly looking forward to continuing the communication and collaboration with everyone. Okay, so finally some fun stuff. I was able to get a couple pictures of our PTAs in action. On the right is Ramona's new PTA board. We were able, at Back to School Night, Council was able to host their association meeting and get them elected. So they're excited to have a PTA back. Ernie Pyle had a parent mingle, Tears and Cheers. Other units had their boohoo breakfasts and other events to welcome our students back. So Washington Elementary had an assembly honoring and recognizing their dual immersion students merging with ILC. And yes, that happened. I'm not gonna go in it, it's not my spot. Bellflower Middle and High School PTSA, busy working the snack shack during the football games, as well as Mayfair. Ernie Pyle, Teacher's Luncheon, several other units did as well. What else? They had a lot going on. Book fairs, popsicle sales, coffee hours, just encouraging family engagement, doing their membership drives, and providing donations for assemblies, field trips. Some more pictures of the kiddos, which is why we all do what we do. PTAs are doing popsicle sales, their book fairs. There are several going on right now. Please support your schools. And you'll notice that a lot of these pictures are from Ernie Pyle, so I wanted to thank Ernie Pyle's PTA president, Christina, for not only sending us some pictures to share with you guys, but also having them pre-approved so that I can actually show them. I thought I had more notes, but one last plug for our PTA membership drive. These are the numbers at our sites. I pulled them on Tuesday. May not be 100% accurate because some may not have entered them all, but I know there's small competition going on between some of the sites, so I wanted to share these. And for those that are not PTA members yet, I encourage you to join one or join all and work together. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Morgan. Superintendent's report. Dr. Dradi, do you have anything to report?
Yes, nothing long today, but so I'm happy to say that the student board member elections have closed, and 3 student board members have been selected. If you recall, we're going to have a representative from Mayfair High School, one representative from Bellflower High, and another representative from Somerset and Las Flores. So the idea is that they're going to be sworn in on the October 12th meeting. And our goal is to have one of the students start on that day, and then they're going to rotate from that point on. I will be having meetings with them before that meeting, so that way they understand the roles and responsibilities, try to educate them. it'll take time to get them fully engaged in the process, but they'll have a good footing by the time they start. So we're very happy about that. A lot of stuff going on in the district right now. It was great to see people in open houses. Just a lot of energy and excitement from the students and parents out there. So I enjoyed at least the sites that I was able to get to. One event I did go to, I'll speak to, because it's a new event that's occurring in our district this year, which is girls flag football. I got a chance to go out and watch the Mayfair play against Bellflower High. So it was a great game for anybody out there that love football, man. It's fast paced, quick, and exciting to watch. So I recommend to go check it out. Includes the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Darty. We move on to board communications. Ms. Armstrong?
Hello, everyone. I'm really glad to see you all this evening. For the past week, I should say, I've been out of commission myself. I didn't do too much with the district or the community. However, I spent a lot of time writing letters to the legislators, a lot of bills being passed, and I do my part as a collective to try to, just be one of those board members who are helping to push and or not push certain legislations that's coming down the line. So I keep forgetting I do stuff like that, and I never really report on it. I did attend Alhambra's Education Foundation. It was a fundraiser. So, a lot of our districts have, sometimes they may have foundations to where they raise money for different purposes. And so it was really nice to be amongst other elected officials, board members in that effort. Other than that, that's about it. And I myself am very glad to be sitting here in this seat right now. So I was not doing well last week at all. So anyway, thank you for being here, and that's my work.
Thank you, Board Member Armstrong. Board Member Hessen?
Thank you. I share the same sentiments as my colleague. I wasn't well this past week either. My voice is still changing, but I'm very happy to be here today. And I wanted to talk about specifically the latest court ruling where it's in the CSBA newsletter, was in favor of a lawsuit in special ed in regards to ADA. So parents now have the right to also sue under ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, for damages in conjunction with the IDEA program, which is basically supports students with disabilities in getting their accommodations in the classroom. In talking with legal, I'd like to recommend that staff, specifically our special ed teachers, administrators, go through an ADA training to actually get educated in the process, so hopefully we understand the accommodation process and how it relates to the different areas of IDEA, which is K through 12, Section 4, which includes K through 12 in college, as well as implications of the ADA itself. This will help provide actually less due process, hopefully, so that teachers will understand, as well as administrators, how to best deal with students based on their individual needs. So that's one thing. I also wanted to acknowledge Dan Buffington's retirement. He served almost 38 years plus for the district, and I didn't want that gone without recognition and acknowledging of his years of service with us. I'm sorry? Yes. With that, I'll close and thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Board Member Hessen. Board Member Stewart?
Good evening. Forgive my tardiness. I had back to school night. So the last 2 weeks, I attended the Bellflower versus Compton Centennial football game. Congrats on the 84-0 win. That was a huge win. I attended back to school night at Albert Baxter and ILC. I really love Baxter. It was just obvious by their room environment that their site collaborates and they work together. Their wellness center is just by far the best I've seen in our district. It's just so beautiful, and I really enjoyed my time at Baxter. ILC was also a great visit. There were so many parents and community members in attendance, and I just really enjoyed learning more about their dual immersion program. No puedo esperar a aprender más. So thank you so much for having me. And the last event I attended was just really special. I'm going to try not to cry, but it was just very humbling and very inspirational, and I just had an amazing time. I attended a celebrity charity softball game, and it featured a lot of UNLV alumni. That's where I went to college, and former Major League Baseball players, including myself and some of my friends and Hall of Fame members, Everett Gray, Lori Harrigan, and Anderson Hunt. It was hosted by Dale Elias of Las Vegas Events and Terry Hennessy of Senior Softball USA. And basically, this was a game, and we played against a team called the USA Patriots. They're also known as the Wounded Warriors, and they're an amputee traveling softball team, and it was amazing. The Warrior team is comprised of competitive athletic veterans who have lost limbs in combat and non-combat related injuries. They had players from the Army, the Navy, the Air Force. These individuals, they just continue to push the limits of modern prosthetics, and they offer a place for camaraderie and healing, and just their stories are so surreal. I want to share one story. I met a man, he's from Vermont, his name is Kenny Celeste, but he just told me some just unbelievable stories. He was in Iraq, Afghanistan, Kosovo. He was being shot at as he's running through the trenches, and a bomb exploded, and that's what happened to his leg. And just he had 8 surgeries in like 10 days, and being away from his family and the things that they do for us. He was on a submarine for 39 days, and there's no windows and there's nothing in there. So just the things that they do for us and the way that they protect our country, it just meant so much to be there and to support them and to play in this. Many of these players that played, they've received the Purple Heart for their bravery and their dedication for our country. And I understand why. They're a blessing, and we should celebrate them 24/7, 365 days a year. So although we were the celebrities of the game, they are the celebrities and the heroes by far. And so I admire them, and I admire them more than I can say in this report. But I just want to say thank you to the Wounded Warriors and all of our veterans and our servicemen for allowing us to spend time with you on that day. You're amazing, you're appreciated, and I just thank you for what you do to our country. They're definitely the real MVPs by far. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Board Member Stewart. Board Member Critchfield?
Thank you, Madam President. All right, I'm going to try to get through this. I told myself I just wasn't going to make a comment, but keeping my mouth shut is not something I do very well. Before I say anything, I will say I did go to the Mayfair Lakewood football game, the Milk Bucket game, and we won that. So that was cool because I used to go to Lakewood, so it was nice to win that one. And then also the back-to-school nights at ILC, Lindstrom, and Albert Baxter, and echo what my colleague Ms. Stewart said. That wellness center was awesome. I think it should be a model for how we do our wellness centers, and I would recommend everyone check that out. I think everything they're doing over there is very impressive. On a personal note, it's been a very difficult week, but I couldn't have attended even this meeting without a lot of the support that I got from the community, a lot of you in the audience tonight, the district staff, Dr. Dradi, and my colleagues here on the board. I really appreciate it. I think the work that we do here is really important. And if I was going to power through anything, getting out of the house and doing something, it was going to be this. Because we talk a lot about mental health and suicide prevention, but I think suicide prevention isn't stopping an act from occurring all the time. Sometimes it's about creating quality education and opportunity and meaningful opportunity for kids. And that's what we need to do here, because it starts so early on if it finally happens. And I'm grateful for being able to sit here and work with my colleagues And I'm grateful for all of you that take your time to come out to these board meetings and advocate for our kids, because our kids are the most important thing, and what we do for them matters. And hey, I made it through without crying, not bad. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Critchfield. I myself did attend the back to school night, and I got through almost all schools. I did miss out on Stephen Foster, so I will be going there soon enough. I agree with the sentiments that our colleague, Board Member Critchfield, just expressed. We do need to continue that work for mental health for our students. Thank you so much for coming and participating in these meetings. Now we're going to go on to recognitions. It's time for recognitions, Dr. Durrani.
At this time, the board will recognize Classified Employee of the Year, Mrs. Carter of the Year. Mrs. Carter will assist the board in the recognitions.
Can I please have the board come down for recognitions? And at the same time, could we please ask Vice Chairperson Stacy Kanan and Member Kathy Guy from the Personnel Commission to join the board? This evening, the Board of Education and the Personnel Commission are pleased to recognize this year's Classified Employee of the Year, Miss Patricia Gutierrez. Ms. Gutierrez has served the Bellflower Unified School District for close to a decade, beginning as a special education instructional aide at Esther Lindstrom and Washington. Thanks to her outstanding ability to work with students who have at times struggled behaviorally, she later became a special education behavior aide. Most know her fondly as Tricia. She has helped countless students, teachers, and other colleagues navigate through difficult situations. Although Tricia primarily supports Washington, she has also been entrusted to support students at other schools due to her impressive skills. In addition, she is a member of the school's PBIS team and works to provide support in her community. When speaking of her role, Tricia expresses her belief that she is helping students gain the real-life skills they need to create a successful future for themselves. On behalf of the board, please let's congratulate Tricia for her unwavering commitment to the Bellflower learning community. Thank you. Would the Personnel Commission like to say anything? Thank you, and congratulations again.
Next, the board will recognize the Certificated Employee of the Year. Mrs. Carter will again assist the board in the recognition.
So this evening, the Board of Education also would like to recognize the Teacher of the Year, Miss Melissa Ellis. Come on forward. Ms. Ellis has served the Bellflower Unified School District for 17 years, beginning as a science teacher at Bellflower Middle High School and progressing to become a full-time career technical education or CTE educator. She teaches Intro to Health careers, medical assistant, counseling, mental health courses, and serves as the CTE department chair, always making decisions in the best interest of her students. Melissa has demonstrated exemplary leadership, commitment, and dedication to her students, creating a safe and nurturing classroom environment that is characterized by trust and high expectations. She incorporates numerous instructional practices such as collaborative learning and project-based learning, which fosters critical thinking while also building essential skills for real-world application. Her classroom has even been selected as a model showcase classroom for the Paxton Patterson Company, recognizing her commitment and dedication to the CTE health pathway. On behalf of the board, let's please congratulate Melissa for her dedication and her leadership. Congratulations. Ms. Ellis, do you have anyone in the audience that you'd like to recognize? Wonderful. They can all come up if you'd like a picture with them. Wonderful. Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Congratulations. And that concludes our recognitions this evening.
Thank you for those recognitions. Now we'll move on to the public hearing. We have a public hearing this evening. Do I have a motion to conduct the public hearing on the resolution sufficiency of standards aligned instructional materials for 2023-2024 grades TK through 12?
So moved.
Are there any members of the public who wish to address this item?
Second.
Is there any discussion from the board at all? No. So we'll take roll call now.
Can we get a motion to close the public hearing?
I move that we close the public hearing. Make a motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Armstrong?
Aye.
Dr. Alhesson?
Aye.
Ms. Stewart?
Aye.
Mrs. Garza?
Aye. New business. Do any members of the board wish to add a new business item on the future agenda?
Yes, I'd like to follow up with my board report and staff looking into doing an ADA training for our special ed teachers as well as administrators in dealing in our special ed program.
Just for clarification, is new business is normally things that the board would like to discuss. Are you asking for us to bring some kind of a training for you guys to vote on, or is that?
That's correct. Sorry. Yes, that is something I'd like to have, or the board to have to look into. Sorry, I keep doing that. Educate our staff since knowledge is power.
Okay. I guess I'm trying. I want to make sure I'm clear on this. So we can certainly provide information about what we currently do with trainings right now to see if that's enough, or I guess is there a particular one that you would want us to get into, and then secondly, I need to. I got to get the vote with the rest of the board to say yes, you want that or not. Is the
So am I understanding this right? You're just asking for the board to consider putting this subject on the agenda so that we can discuss whether or not we have this already, whether we're using it or not, and/or to look into new training if we have to? That you just want to have a discussion.
I'm talking about a specific training.
Okay, you're talking about
the
specific.
training on the Americans with Disabilities Act, given what has just been passed by the Supreme Court, to better educate our teachers and to support our district administrators as well.
Okay, so that is actually current current information and laws that have just currently been passed. So you want us to have like an update through that training, so to speak, right?
Okay, I'm not maybe saying this clearly. Maybe legal can support me. What I am trying to request at this point for new business is that based on the Supreme Court ruling that was recently passed, and CSBA has said that it's important for educators to, specifically in special ed, to understand the Americans with Disabilities Act and its implications in regards to providing accommodations under 504 for our students. That's all. And we end to a discussion, but all I'm just requesting is that we look into this to further discuss.
So can I second that?
Yes, so just to clarify, the motion is for that particular training to be discussed at a future agenda meeting, at which time a decision could be made at that point, but it's simply for allowing the board to discuss this item to provide additional training to educators, administrators, and whoever else in the district regarding the ADA compliance issues.
Thank you.
I want to second that, please.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So could we have roll call?
Ms. Armstrong?
Aye.
Dr. Alhesson?
Aye.
Ms. Stewart?
Aye.
Mr. Critchfield?
Abstain.
Mrs. Garza?
Aye. Do any other board members wish to add a new business item on the future agenda? Hearing none, we will close that portion of our agenda. We will now move into discussion items. We have a discussion item, Dr. Drotti?
A few board meetings ago, the board directed me and the staff to come up with a process for a 360 evaluation for the school board to undertake. And we have done some homework on that. And we have actually reached out to CSBA, the group that you all belong to. So they do have a training, a 2-day training that they can provide the board. We have not established a specific date yet. I think the main thing I want to hear is today, get direction on is whether you're okay with the 2-day training. And then you have some of the, I gave you some of the information of what the training would undertake in the Friday memo, so you have the information on it. But today's conversation is more or less about this. If you're okay with the 2-day training, or I would need a yes, and then I'll work to try to establish a specific date, working with you individually, and then also with the contracted service that we're gonna attain from CSBA to establish 2 days that we can do a training on.
So do you need a motion?
Discussion item. Do we start discussing?
Yeah, if you can discuss the item first, just ask questions or anything like that, you can, and then we'll.
Okay, so we make a motion to discuss the item.
I move to discuss the item.
So we don't need to
You don't
make
have
a
to, yeah.
motion. But Board Member Armstrong?
I'm for the training.
Board Member Alhassan?
I'd like to know its breakdown. I guess you said it's in the Friday memo this coming Friday.
We put it last Friday.
I didn't see it last Friday.
Was it last Friday or this Friday? I believe it was last Friday.
What's it? It's titled board training.
Yeah, the 360 evaluation.
I thought that was your evaluation.
But it has. Okay, so the way this works is it's tied in with the superintendent evaluation also. The way it works is they work with the board to make sure they have consensus amongst the board about how they operate. And then that then leads into how they're going to work together to evaluate the superintendent. There's a whole process with it. So going through the training would do both. So that breakdown you saw on last Friday, if you look at it again, it'll explain all of it there.
Okay.
Any other questions, Dr. Hassan? Board Member Critchfield? I'm sorry, Board Member Stewart.
No, I think this is a really good idea. I've been taking those CSBA conferences, and it's something that we talked about. And I think as leaders, we should be examining ourselves and our board as a collective unit. So I think this is an amazing idea, and I'm all for it.
Board Member Critchfield?
I think this is going to be a great thing. I'm very supportive. I'm supportive of a 1 day or a 2 day, whichever. But I am supportive of a 2 day. And from the information I've gathered, at first I thought it was more just like we get a report card or we just grade ourselves. But the more I learned, I'm more excited about it now, about it creating an opportunity for us to have more of a collective vision and approach and create a more concise culture here on the board. And I think that it would be a great step for our board. And I think most effective boards go through it. And I think it's going to be a great thing that we do. And also something that we should continue to do every year, especially as board members go on and off. It's a way to keep us all on track towards in the same direction. So
I'd prefer a 1 day when Brad was talking about that too, a 1 day. If it's possible, because you're saying it's on a weekend. So you're gonna.
It does not have to be. It's just we can do it on a weekday or weekends. It's just the timing of people working and not working.
No, I'm
is really
okay with the
time.
weekend, but I was 1 day. I'd prefer 1 day versus 2 day.
So yeah, there is a 1 day training and there's also 2 day training. So I can definitely ask. I guess I would need to hear from you guys what you prefer, because that's how I'm gonna. I need to coordinate with them.
I think one of the questions that would be, what would we be missing on the 2 day? And then is it possible to maybe just do an extended 1 day for scheduling purposes with 5 people, and maybe with like a break in between, and just still get all of the information and benefit from it? And I guess with just whatever the breakdown would be of what 1 day and 2 day would look like would be helpful.
Yeah, I think the 2 day allows for, anytime you're culture building, you have to take steps and really think through it and you go slow to go fast, and the 2 day will allow for that to occur. They have a 1 day plan also. It just won't be as meaty as the 2 days, but we can certainly do an extended day. She did say, the consultant did say we can do an extended day. It all depends on how fatigued you are. Sometimes these are emotional conversations and all that, but I think you guys can handle 1 day, an extended day.
I'll be honest, I want to do what they recommend is best for us. I think this is really important, and if they think the 2 day and the meaty and all of that is what we should do, I want to do what would be best for our unit as a whole. So I would be in favor of 1 or 2, but I would take their recommendations. They're the experts in telling us what they think that we should do.
Board Member Armstrong, do you have a?
Well, you talk about it being meaty. Is there an element or a component to where we're going to need to reflect in between the first part and the second part? Because if it's that element, then we do need the 2 sessions.
Yeah. So when you go through that Friday memo information I gave you, just you'll see the details there of what's going to take place. The process just isn't in those 2 days. It actually starts earlier in that there's one-on-one meetings with you all to so that way you get to express yourself individually to a consultant about what you see, how we can improve and areas we need to grow on. And then the 2 days comes where there will be reflection time and things like that. That's what the meatiness comes from. So as you're thinking through things, you're not just moving to the next step.
So, Board Member Armstrong, are you saying that you are in favor for the 2 days then? Yeah. Okay, perfect. Thank you. As for myself, I agree with Board Member Stewart. As a teacher, we always have to reflect on our practices. and make sure that we are addressing those very important decisions. And I also agree with Board Member Critchfield. You know, this is our first step to becoming a very effective board. And these are probably going to be very difficult conversations for us. We may need several breaks, perhaps, but I'm in favor for the 2-day process as well. Thank you, staff. Now we will go on to any other discussion items, Dr. Jardy?
No, that was the only discussion item we had.
Thank you. Let's go on to major action. The first item is second reading of revised board policy 5113, absences and excuses. Dr. Jardy, do we have any information on this item?
Yes, at this time, Dr. Avila will share information with the board.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Jardy. We did not have any recommendations for revision for this board policy. Staff is recommending to approve the board policy with the correction. And so that's what's before the board tonight.
I brought up one correction. Do you want to talk about it? You want?
Well, no, the correction, that is the correction, Ms. Stewart. It's
Just
adding
the
the word
word
"and"
"and," yes.
in the policy. Thank you for
Thank you.
that assistance.
I'm not the best at spelling and grammar, so I had to check with Bonnie first. Sorry.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions or comments from the board? Do I have a motion to approve this item?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Armstrong?
Aye.
Dr. O'Hesson?
Aye.
Ms. Stewart?
Aye.
Mr. Critchfield?
Aye.
Mrs. Garza?
Aye. The next item is application and resolution for fiscal independence. Dr. Jardy, do we have any information on this item?
Yes, at this time, I'd like to bring up Mrs. Holjean, and she will share information about this item.
Thank you, Dr. Jardy. So tonight, as a part of major action item 14.2, the board is being proposed to approve the application and resolution for fiscal independence. Prior to approving the application and resolution, we wanted to provide the board with additional information as to why the district is recommending that the board approve this item. So first, let's start with what is a fiscally independent school district. A fiscally independent districts are authorized to issue their own warrants for both payments, accounts payable, and payroll, rather than being dependent on the county offices to provide the oversight and make the payments for them. A listing of the warrants issued by a fiscally independent district shall be forwarded to the county auditor, having jurisdiction upon his or her request, and also to the county superintendent of schools, having jurisdiction over the district on the same day the warrants are issued. So now let's look at what is the process and who actually grants fiscal independence to school districts. A school district that wishes to become fiscally independent files an application with the county superintendent. Once the county superintendent of schools receives the application, state law requires that the county superintendent hire a certified public accounting, also known as a CPA, or a public accounting to review the district's accounting controls. The CPA reports the findings and recommendations to the county superintendent, county auditor, and the district applying for the fiscal independence. Then the county superintendent forwards the district's application along with its recommendations, the recommendation of the county auditor and the CPA on accounting controls to the state superintendent of public instruction for approval or disapproval. And then it's the state superintendent of public instruction who will approve the application if he or she finds that the accounting controls are adequate, and if the state superintendent of public instruction finds that the accounting controls are not adequate, he or she will not approve the application. So let's discuss what fiscal independence is not, because the term independence may be misleading. Fiscally independence is not allowing a district to spend public funds on expenditures for an individual purpose, rather than a public purpose. It does not excuse districts from being accountable for fiscal accountability requirements under AB 1200. That's budget approval, first interim, second interim, and unaudited actuals, along with any other documentation as well as audits. The ability to not adhere to accounting regulations, budget controls, and audits under Education Code Sections 4110, 41024. These ed codes require the accountability of financial reports and accountability. Again, go hand in hand with the second bullet there. Being able to operate without having to follow approval documentation requirements because they are fiscally independent from the county business system and are able to print their own warrants. So again, being fiscally independent does not mean that you do not have to adhere to these requirements. Our application process is a little different from that of a district that would be applying for the first time because our reapplication is part of a settlement agreement. Bellflower was already fiscally independent and is set up to continue to be fiscally independent. We became fiscally independent on July 1st of 2016 and have invested in our own management system, our business management system. As a fiscally independent district, we are able to deal with the county treasurer directly when it comes to funding apportionments and interest revenue, and have been able to reconcile our own funds. It has saved on operational cost, and we have been able to have more control regarding warrant needs for both services and payroll. Additionally, since being fiscally independent, the district has had positive certifications and has continued to maintain a healthy ending fund balance to meet its fiscal obligations. The district's required annual audits have received the highest level of opinion an auditor can give, which is an unmodified opinion. The district disagreed with the revocation of fiscal independence and, as part of a settlement, agreed that it was no longer fiscally independent and would have an audit conducted that would be used to reapply for fiscal independence if the audit determined that the district has adequate warrant, disbursement, and internal controls. If you may recall, in May, we were presented with an audit that was presented to the board. LACO had time to respond, and now the audit has been completed. This was a neutrally agreed upon auditor that conducted this audit. The auditor issued an unmodified opinion, which again is the highest level of opinion an auditor can give. Therefore, the district is reapplying as it feels it has fulfilled the settlement requirement to be able to reapply and continues to want to operationally and fiscally benefit by being fiscally independent based on the advantages the district has experienced when it was fiscally independent. On the next 3 slides, I will provide you the operational advantages of being fiscally independent, which I will read slowly. So, same-day turnaround for warrant issuance, helping to eliminate the possibility of late charges. Late charges erode the trust of the vendor relations with the district and also could result in negative consequences that would affect the district's credit rating. Full control over payroll schedule and accounts payable schedule. Correction of errors in a timely manner, resulting in better business practices and maintaining trust of the district's integrity with employee groups and vendors. Training and implementation of fully integrated financial system, including general ledger, our accounts payable, our budgeting, receivables, purchasing, our stores, payroll, human resource, our position control, as well as our benefits. Having a system that is not integrated requires workarounds and the reconciliation of varying systems that could lead to errors and creates additional workload. Currently, our system is built to have it all in one. Not having an integrated system requires additional personnel costs to be able to perform the reconciliation of systems. Working directly with the county treasurer and auditor, resulting in faster turnaround of pre-audit of disbursements, issuance of checks, stop payments, and reissuance of checks when applicable. Complete access for school site personnel and program managers to view payroll, W-2s, accounts payable, benefits, and other transactions at any time, producing live year-to-date information for better monitoring of budgets. Having multiple systems requires multiple login information with limited available information. Cost avoidance of programming and implementation of new system at the county level, as well as ongoing interface cost. When the district decided to become fiscally independent the first time, we were aware that the county was going into a new system and knew that that new system would be costly, so the district got ahead of that. Elimination of time and delay of audible items by the county. Improve efficiency and turnaround with audible items. Currently, payment requests can be held up at the county, which delays getting payments to vendors in a timely manner if you are fiscally dependent. Elimination of operational charges and savings from annual consumer price index, also known as CPI, that are imposed by the county annually for operational expenses, resulting in more revenue that directly can be used for student needs. Based on our experience of operating as a fiscally independent district, it is over $1 million savings. Oops, sorry, did I not slide over? Oh, apologize about that. Is it number 8? I'm blind here, sorry. Is over $1 million annually. Reconciliation is done internally, can pull reports from ECAPS, and those are the reports that are directly with the county treasurer, and internal business systems as needed to reconcile funds much more immediately and also monitor cash flow for the district as well as interest. This allows for the district to have a better grasp on its finances month to month and have direct access to interest revenue belonging to the district. And number 10, being independent allows for interest to come directly to the district's bank accounts versus being pooled in an account where all of the funds are held together. This allows the district to directly account the interest revenue per period. So just like there are advantages, there are disadvantages with anything. The district does assume additional legal liability, however, institutes a dispersing officer role to oversee this additional legal responsibility. Procedures such as withholdings, retirement-related reports, and penalties associated with these procedures are the full responsibility of the district. It's directly responsible for its cash shortages, which can be mitigated with routine cash flow production and monitoring. And being again that we have already operated as a fiscally independent district, the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. Staff has already assumed these responsibilities and has experienced better operational practices and services. So if the board approves the application and the resolution, it will be submitted to the Los Angeles County Office of Education, also known as LACO, to the Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Eduardo, for recommendation. We will respond to any feedback in order to continue the application process. And while the county makes the recommendation, it is the state superintendent of public instruction that makes the final decision, and the district will wait for the response. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Holguin. Questions, comments from the board? Board Member Armstrong?
I have no questions. I understand this. We've been fighting this for several years now, so I'm just glad we're moving forward.
Board Member Hassan?
I was on the board initially when we started this in 2016, so I'm definitely for it. And yeah, it's been a long process. I share the same sentiments as Board Member Armstrong.
Board Member Stewart?
Just for clarification, so I know like before I really started to learn more about this, I didn't think there was a lot of oversight because that's what you think with the word independence. So can you just reiterate again how there's more oversight or equal oversight if we were not fiscally compared to fiscally?
Yes. So as stated, we are still required to adhere to all AB 1200 as well as Ed Code requirements in regards to the use of public funds. That AB 1200 requires us to report our budget approval, our first interim, second interim, as well as our unaudited actuals to the county, submit them and using the standardized accounting code structure that the state has put in place. So we are still responsible for doing that. Additionally, at any time that the county would ask for a copy of our warrants or anything that are issued, we are required to submit that. Internally here, we have a workflow process that requires that it starts wherever that expenditure, whether it be at a school site, and then go through the different directors that oversee those budgets, and even the superintendent, and ultimately at the fiscal. So we have multiple layers of approval before a warrant is actually issued.
Thank you.
Board Member Critchfield?
Thank you, President Garza. One question, so yeah, like my colleagues, Ms. Stewart mentioned, since learning about really what it means to be fiscally independent, my thoughts have definitely changed. But one question I do have, following the money, because it seems like it's a lot about who has control of the money and the interest, fiscally independent compared to a pooled interest, what is that out? Is there a big difference in the allocation that we would get from a pooled interest allocation as opposed to the interest in being fiscally independent?
Yes, as mentioned earlier, our experience of what we have noticed based on prior to us being fiscally independent is that we have looked, and this is also some of the operational costs that they charge, that the county charges, the county treasurer charges LACO for doing this for us in terms of operationals, but we have, based on the last couple of years, noticed about $1 million savings.
Okay, so that number. Another question, because it seems pretty clear to me, and I'm for it, but why don't other districts ask for fiscal independence? If that's a fair question.
Most fiscally independent districts are in the Bay Area. It's not something that a lot of people here don't know about. Just as the county doesn't know too much about what a basic aid district is, because most over in Northern California. So our district is lacking behind in some of the operations that exist in Northern California. But the fiscal independence is known out there, but just not here. Don't get me wrong, this is a thing that they don't want people to go out and know, because you're talking about, the money, the savings, $1 million we would save would normally end up in the county office, and we wouldn't be benefiting from that. But if other districts found out about that, I can see where you wouldn't want that.
Right.
If I was a county office.
Thank you.
I just want to add that, every district is unique, right, in terms of its needs. For us, in initially making the decision, is knowing that the county was transferring into another business management system and the cost associated with that, as well as some of those operational, and getting ahead of the game, having had some experience with that transition prior to this. Also knowing that staff was able to take on some of these responsibilities, because initially becoming is a lot of training and a lot of man hours, and it took a lot of steps, which is again why at this stage where we're already set up and we've complied, we're moving forward.
Thank you. So just to confirm, we currently do meet all the requirements to apply for this fiscal independence, correct?
Based on the settlement agreement, how we understand it, yes.
Perfect. $1 million is a lot of money that could go for our kids and not necessarily to some organization. We can definitely do a lot more for our students with that. I agree. We should move forward with this as well. Anyone else? Questions, comments? Do I have a motion to approve this item?
You have that motion to move forward.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Armstrong?
Aye.
Dr. Alhesson?
Aye.
Ms. Stewart?
Aye.
Mr. Critchfield?
Aye.
Mrs. Garza?
Aye. The next item is first reading of bylaw 9323, meeting conduct. Dr. Draudi, do we have information on this item?
Yes, if you recall at the last meeting, at the request of Dr. Sue Hessen and the board agreeing to it, you asked the staff to bring forward bylaw 9323 as to discuss and possibly vote on. So this is the first reading of the bylaw. You have it attached there. And what you presented here is what Dr. Sue presented for your consideration. So I guess it's we just need to deliberate on it, whether you agree or not agree, or if you want to make adjustments. This is the time to do it under the first reading, and then before we bring back for a second reading.
May I request the board bylaw be read aloud, please?
Sure. It's a long one, so you have to take some time on this. Unless we want to project it up while I read. If people want to do that, is there a way to do that? Project the actual bylaw up there while I read it? I think it might help people. That's a lot to remember.
Bonnie can do it.
I'll read it. I'll start on that. We'll project it and then I'll start reading it.
Is it not, why is it not in our books?
It should be there. It is.
I'm looking for it.
If you go in assembly, it's right there in assembly. You guys aren't seeing it? After fiscal.
It was in our Friday memo, and I saw.
It's in here, but there's not pages, yeah.
Okay. Right after fiscal independence, you'll see it right there.
Do you have it, Myra? Oh, here it is. I got it. I'll read it. I don't have a problem reading it.
Yeah, you sure? I can do it.
Yeah. So this
Okay,
is
go ahead.
bylaw BB 9323.
Mm-hmm.
So meeting procedures, all governing board meetings shall begin on time at 6 p.m. and shall be guided by an agenda prepared in accordance with our board bylaws and posted and distributed in accordance with the Ralph M. Brown Act, open meeting requirements, and applicable laws. The board president shall conduct board meetings in accordance with the board bylaw and procedure that enable the board to officially consider issues and carry out the will of the majority. The board believes that late night meetings deter public participation and can affect board's decision-making ability and can be a burden to staff. Regular board meetings shall be adjourned at 9 p.m. and not exceed 10 p.m. unless extended to a specific time determined by the majority of the board. The meeting shall be extended no more than once and subsequently may be adjourned to a later date. The following is about public participation. So what you should know is that this is a separate bylaw that's already been approved. Initially, it was combined, just so you know that. You already have this one. So, public participation, members of the public are encouraged to attend board meetings and to address the board concerning any item on an agenda or within the board's jurisdiction, so as not to inhibit public participation. Persons attending board meetings shall not be requested to sign in, complete a questionnaire, or otherwise provide their name and other information as a condition of attending the meeting. In order to conduct district business in an orderly and efficient manner, the board requires that public presentations to the board comply with the following procedure. The board shall give members of the public an opportunity to address the board on any item of interest to the public that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board, either before or during the board's consideration of the item. Number 2, at a time so designated on the agenda, at a regular board meeting, members of the public may bring before the board matters that are not listed on the agenda. The board shall take no action or discussion on any item not appearing on the posted agenda except as authorized by law. Point 3, without taking action, board members or district staff members may briefly respond to statements made or questions posed by the public about items not appearing on the agenda. Additionally, on their own initiatives or in response to questions posed by the public, board members or staff members may ask a question for clarifications, make a brief announcement, or make a brief report on their own activities. Furthermore, the board or a board member may provide a reference to staff or other resources for factual information, ask staff to report back to the board as a subsequent meeting concerning any matter, or take action directing staff to place a matter of business on future agenda. The board need not allow the public to speak on any item that has already been considered by a committee composed exclusively of board members at a public meeting where the public and the opportunity to address the committee on that item. However, if the board determines that the item has been substantially changed since that committee heard the item, the board shall provide an opportunity for the public to speak. Then legal references are identified as well as codes, which I will not go into.
Thank you, Board Member Hassan. Do we have questions, comments from staff?
I think if you and Mrs. Elena, my sisters could explain how this came together, but essentially, I believe Dr. Su, you, Helson, you took some two different bylaws and mushed them together to create this one, correct?
Right. So then, this is something Board Member Armstrong and I worked on, and what we did is that we combined the two, which actually was based on CSBA's recommendation. So CSBA has a copy. Theirs is 8 pages, and it goes into great detail in regards to also quorum, and they state specifically that the same thing. This is the same jargon that's taken from them. The board believes that the late night meetings and meetings that has longer than 3 hours can discourage public participation and constitute unnecessary burden on staff and the reflective activity of the board's decision-making process. And in this case, they said the board should adjourn at 10:30, but they don't state when the board meeting started. But they say, they put the parameters of 3 hours. So what was given to us to work on, because staff gives us board policies to work on and revise. So apparently, this was given to the entire board in the board Friday memo. Did everybody see that?
Yes.
The 3 stages of the processes. So apparently, the meeting conduct bylaw no longer exists. Somehow, it's vanished off Sibley. So we don't even have one. So what I'm recommending is that as a board, like most board districts do, we need to have a meeting conduct bylaw. It's important for future boards as they come on, as we transition. So it's up for discussion. You can revise it, but based on CSBA guidelines, that's what's included. There's nothing been modified, but the time. So if you want to start later, you want to end later, that's up to the board to decide. But basically, I think it's important as a board that we have a bylaw on meeting conduct, because right now, one does not exist.
Thank you, Dr. Hassan. Questions, comments from the board? Board Member Armstrong?
Yeah, so I'm gonna refer to the staff and just to make sure, do we have a meetings procedure in our bylaws right now?
We currently have meetings and notices, which is bylaw 9320.
That's a separate bylaw under CSBA. So bylaw 9320 is a meeting and notices.
That's what it's
which
called,
is
meetings and
meetings
notices.
and notices,
Okay.
right? Which is when you decide to post a meeting, the timeframes and so forth. But then there's another bylaw under CSBA called meeting conduct.
So meeting conduct.
Which is 9323, which we don't have.
Correct.
Okay.
Could I request, could you pull up 9320? Is it just Brown Act when to post a meeting, or does it have some of that language in there as well? If we can.
So if I can continue, the reason why I'm asking, because going off of what Dr. Drotti was saying, you're saying that we mushed them together. Would it be better if we separated? Would that sit better with you if we have the meeting conduct as one board policy and then the public participation as another? It's just a question, because I don't want you to think that we're mushing anything together.
You can do what you want to do.
No, because I want it to be clear.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it reads better separately. That'd be perfect.
It's more or less. I'm gonna answer this way. The board, you guys wanted to discuss this, so for the meetings, I think that time limits on meetings and all that is, to me, the most. What's in red, where you saw there, meetings in at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. A specific time when the meeting ends will be the one that I know that will be challenging. There will eventually be situations where I'll do my best to always try to end the meetings at 9, but I have no idea who's going to come speak and how many people are come speak and so on. So to say it's going to end at a specific time, I wouldn't know how to control that.
But it does allow time for us as a board to go over.
So
Board
my
member
question is, I'm gonna go bring it to the board. Then I just asked Dr. Drotti.
Right.
In lieu of what Dr. Drotti says, if this was separated, like meeting conduct as under one title, and then public participation like another number, would that read better to you? Or because it's really under meeting conduct, all of it. It's the subtitle. Okay, public meeting procedures and public participate is all under meeting conduct.
Correct.
Okay, so but what I'm saying, because I don't want people to think that we're mushing it together, it's just
But we have, because a bylaw passed already on participation, so
right.
We need to, I'm just asking, we need to relook at this and decide, do you want to put up the public participation? Because it was approved in 2022.
Could we please continue with the other board member comments as well?
Yeah, but
And then we can go back to that bylaw at the end.
Okay, but in her discussion, she's asking, do we want to have two separate ones? I'm responding to her in discussion. If we want two separate ones, we need to see what the other one is stating. Is it exactly like this, which I think it is?
Just a point of order, I think that'd be a subsequent motion.
Right.
So we got to finish the discussion on this one, but if you
Yes.
if you make another motion to separate those, that'd be one thing. But I think this discussion should happen first.
Yes.
No, I don't think it, I really think it should stay like it is, because it's all under meeting conduct. So you have the subtitles. It just triggered me when I heard mush together. That's all. It was that's all. But we need to, it's meeting conduct.
So we will continue with the other board member comments at this point. Thank you. Board Member Stewart?
My first question is, if there wasn't a bylaw already, why are there corrections in red? Where did that come from?
I believe that is something that Dr. L. Hessen and Mrs. Armstrong discussed and put as a consideration for you guys to vote on.
So the whole thing is brand new, is what you're saying, not just the red parts?
Portions. They took pieces of the different the bylaws, mushed them together, like Mrs. Armstrong mentioned. We mentioned earlier, and in addition to that, what was added in red. That didn't come from CSBA or anything. That came from
Okay,
yeah.
let me go ahead and continue with my comments. So as a board, one, I've heard all of my colleagues emphasize how important data is and how we should put students first. So this is stated in Board Bylaw 9005. It reads, the Board of Education believes that its primary responsibility is to act in the best interest of every student in the district. So with that being said, let's examine the data with adding time limits to this board policy. One, agreeing to this proposal would allow the board 6 hours per month for general meetings. 6 hours is not enough for everything we do, and I don't believe anyone here wants to go to 3 meetings a month or more. The data shows that 7 out of 14 regular meetings in 2023 have gone over 3 hours. So 50% of our board meetings prove that we cannot finish our work in less than 3 hours. 2 of those meetings went over 4 hours. 2 out of 3 special board meetings went over 3 hours. And 4 out of 9 meetings in 2022 exceeded the suggested 3-hour time limit. So my questions would be to my colleagues, and I'd like you to consider is, 1, does this data reveal that we should make our meetings shorter? I don't think so. 2, are we supposed to just not do the work for our students that we agreed were our first priority? The data shows we need time to support them. 3, during most meetings in 2023, so far, we haven't had that many public comments. So what if we start having a lot of public comments? Do we just not finish our meetings because our community wants them to listen to them? I don't believe when our community has been asking for transparency and collaboration that limiting the public participation, public comment, that's literally the name of the bylaw, is a good idea. And the community members that have spoken to me and about this in public comments in the past are not in favor of time limits. Board policies should also not be in the best interest of one individual. We all know the job requirements when we ran for this position. There were no time limits when we accepted this role. In fact, Board Bylaw 9000 states the Board of Education has been elected by the community to provide leadership and citizen oversight of this district. The board shall ensure that the district is responsive to the values, beliefs, and the priorities of our community. So the community has spoken against these time limits, and how would we support our community by giving their agenda limited time? Obviously, we look at our agenda. Our regular meetings include public comments, recognitions, presentations from students, staff, community, inspirational messages, employee representative reports, PTA communications, student board representative reports, board communications, superintendent reports, action items, consent agenda discussions, new business, major action, public hearings, informational items on multi-million-dollar budgets, multi-million-dollar facility plans, student achievement, safety, curriculum policies, and so much more. So I guess I would be asking, which would we want to eliminate if we're going to shorten our board meetings? I will never support a policy like this that goes against the best interests of our students, our parents, our staff, and our community, and it is beyond me that anyone would want to limit the work that we do here in our district. So this is not what I was elected to do for my constituents, and I would suggest to my colleagues that we do not put this policy in place for these reasons. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Stewart. Board Member Critchfield.
So I will say the timing of this, I think that they're very valid concerns, and Amy makes a lot of great points on that. I will say that one of the things that reason I'm not going to support this policy is because I believe that CSBA training is going to address a lot of the things that I think we're trying to address with this policy. So I think that we're already going to be doing things to have a better conduction of the meetings. And I have a hard time with hard start and stop times. I think that makes it more difficult for us to have our meetings. Honestly, even just all governing board meetings start at 6 p.m. It's like, well, we can start closed session at 4, right? And then if we ever have to have a special meeting, now we have to have it at 6. I just feel like it creates unnecessary constraints that we'd have to abide by, and it takes away our ability to do the work and make scheduling possible when we already have our general meetings and notices requirements with the Brown Act that we follow. So I feel like those things are already in place for the meetings. And again, a lot of Ms. Stewart's points I agree with. So for that reason, I won't be supporting this.
Thank you, Board Member Critchfield. I also agree with Board Member Stewart and Board Member Critchfield. A lot of these things we will probably get through with our CSBA trainings that we're going to be going through as the Board 360 evaluation. I also have concerns with the statement that said the board believes that late night meetings deter public participation. I'm part of the board, and I don't believe that. I was never asked that. So no, I do not agree with that statement. The second part of the statement I don't agree with is that they can affect the board's decision-making ability. I disagree as well. That is not something that would affect myself, but I'm only speaking for myself at this point. So I do not agree with that. And I also want to remind the public and our board and our staff that CSBA is a recommendation organization. They do not oversee what bylaws, policies are approved on any school district. So we, as the board, decide what those rules will be and what our community is asking for. So that is why I will be voting no as well. Now,
So, Can I,
do I have a,
are we still having discussion? No, we didn't close the
We-
discussion yet, did we?
Call for the vote.
the vote has been called? Please begin the, approve this item.
Can we just please hear her, President Garza? Can we hear what she has to say? Because all three of you all spoke and she has something to say.
I just read the
Yes.
bylaw. I didn't even make a comment. I read the bylaw
Yes.
based on what's given up from CSBA. I think we should have a meeting conduct, eliminate the time. Eliminate them. If you want to stay 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, that's fine. But my point is that we need to have meeting conducts for future board members as they come down, okay? You can revise this. This is not saying you can keep it the way it is. This is up for discussion. That's what we're supposed to be doing as a board, together. The second thing is that when Amy was talking about participating, about with the public, she's talking about public participation. I wanted clarification. Ms. Stewart, is that what you were talking about? The
That
public
was
wants more time to speak?
no. I'm saying if we had a controversial thing and there was a lot of people from the public speaking, then if we limit our time and we cut it off, then they might not get to, or we might not get to all of our business because there's so many comments. And I just don't think it's fair to put a time limit on the business that we do.
We don't have, the time limit we have for public participation is 3
Madam
minutes.
President, point of order. Called for the vote.
The vote has been called. Please take roll call.
We need a first and a second.
Sorry. Do I have a motion to approve this item?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
So you asked for a motion to approve the item. So the motion that was made when it so moved was stated was to approve the bylaw, just for clarification.
Right.
To
Okay.
approve it the way it is now.
Right, the motion, but that's not my vote. That doesn't mean that I vote that way,
Okay.
if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, that was the clarification.
Right. The motion, the second are just to get to that point, right?
Yeah.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Armstrong,
Aye.
Dr. Alhassan,
No,
Ms. Stewart,
No.
Mr. Critchfield,
No.
Mrs. Garza.
No. The next item is consent agenda. Thank you. So, do any members of the board have any requests to withhold any agenda items this evening? Hearing none, then we will move on to informational, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Armstrong,
Aye.
Dr. Alhesson,
Aye.
Ms. Stewart,
Aye.
Mr. Critchfield,
Aye.
Mrs. Garza.
Aye. We move on to informational items. Does the board have any questions regarding the informational items this evening? Hearing none, we will move on to adjourning the board meeting. If there is an objection, this meeting is adjourned at 7:43 until the regular board meeting to be held on Thursday, October 12th, 2023. Thank you.